Hi cousins, and welcome to another session of Honest Talk About Women, where you'll learn tips, tricks and strategies on how to navigate the minefields of dating and relationships. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also comment in the comment section. It all helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you have a story you want to share with viewers, you can contact me on my email address listed below. Today's story is about child support payments and how they can take a big chunk of your income. This could also be classified under the comedy section of my channel because it's quite comical. Recently in New Zealand, we had a news story of a news presenter who is 50 years old, who has moved back into his mum's house with his son, saying that he'd just broken up with his ex-wife, and after all the financial settlements, he didn't have enough money to buy another house, and he moved in to his mother's house with his son. So I decided to read the article and see where this guy went wrong. He's quite well known in New Zealand as a news presenter. I don't follow mainstream TV, so I don't actually follow him. But it was quite interesting, him moving back in at 50 years old into his mum's house with his son. So I read the article, and it came out that he also had two teenage daughters with a previous wife, and also a teenage son from a very brief relationship. Now, guys, life is all about simplicity. You don't want to complicate things, and you don't want to have unnecessary mistakes as you have relationships. So you've got to think very, very carefully, guys, about unprotected sex, because 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes of thrill can lead to a huge cost down the track, and the tax department estimated it to be about $250,000. That's New Zealand dollars. So in US dollars, 150,000 US to bring up a child. And that's just a basic upbringing. That's just none of the fluffy stuff like ski trips and overseas trips and trips away with sporting events. That doesn't cover that. This is just the bare basics, 150,000 US. So when you ever get into a physical relationship with a woman, you've got to be mindful of having unwanted kids, because no one benefits. You don't benefit because your pay pack is going to get completely ripped apart. The child doesn't benefit with not having two parents in the same house, and the complications of paying child support and alimony, if she goes for you with alimony, can be quite horrendous. So let's get into seeing where this guy fell down. So based on this chart, his average income, just assuming a news presenter, he's earning 118,000 US dollars, and tax rates for that in New Zealand is 34,200. That's based on the tax department calculator. So, and then he's got to pay worker insurance, which is insurance coverage if he has any health issues. The government will take care of his health bills. So that's $1,400. But then you go to the next part, the child support payment of $33,600. That's almost the same as the tax he's paying on his salary. And that's a huge chunk. That's at 29%, huge. So how is that calculated? It's based on the tax department calculator. So he's got, say, two teenage girls, say they're 16, I think they're twins, with a previous wife. So the payment involved in that is, I think it's about 25,000, and then he's got a son who's 14. He had a very brief relationship with, that he's also paying child support on. So child support for those three children are 33,600. That takes a huge chunk out of your pay packet, guys. So you've got to think very carefully about unprotected sex, there's no excuse for pregnancies, unwanted kids, or mistakes happening. There's so many contraceptives out there for both women. Last count, there's about 18. Most of them are government funded in this country. And then for guys, the most common one is the condom. Going through this guy's calculations, his take-home pay after paying out all that is $48,000. And then there's miscellaneous taxes. So if you own a house, you've got to pay rates to the local council, which is like property taxes, and that's just going up every year. So that's not cheap in Auckland, not cheap at all. The average house is about $1 million in Auckland. So let's assume he's got $1 million house, and he's got to pay tax on that. So his rates on that would be around about the $2,500–3,000 mark. And then there's 15% GST, which is like VAT, and that's a sales tax on all goods and services in New Zealand. So every time from buying an ice cream to buying a car, there's GST on that. So that's 15%. Then there's petrol tax. There's a tax on a tax. So there's a petrol tax for the roads, and then you've got to pay GST on that. So it's a tax on a tax. Then there's an alcohol tax if you drank alcohol. Again, it's called an excise tax, and it's a tax on a tax. So you've got to pay GST on top of the excise tax on top of the product you're purchasing. So there's a lot of miscellaneous taxes out there that you come across that you've got to pay, and that comes to about $9,600. So after earning a salary of about $118,000, he's left with about $38,000, and he's got to pay for himself and pay for his current son. I think it was 13. And who's living with him. Then he's got to pay his mortgage payments if he's got a house and got a mortgage. So basically he sold his house and he moved into his mother's house. And his mother, I think, is about 70 years old, and obviously adores her son, welcomes him in, and her grandson. So they're operating as a family unit. So good luck to them. But that's basically the maths, guys. If you're going to have kids, you've got to be responsible, and it's got to be planned pregnancy. It can't be any unwanted pregnancies, because it's very, very costly to all parties concerned, to society, to the child involved, who's not having two parents in the same house, and it goes on and on and on. So not a good situation there. Just a story I can tell you quite briefly. I remember in my 20s, you meet a lot of women, you're in the party scene, you're developing a career, and I had a physical relationship with a lady who I remember having action with her one night, and then going to the toilet straight afterwards to relieve my bladder, which should have been done before, but it was done afterwards. And I came back into the room, and she was emptying the contents of the condom inside her, and that really annoyed me. And I can tell you from then that was all over, because she just wasn't mother material. She was didn't have a bit of maternal instinct in her, or motherly instinct in her, and she was the wrong person to have a child with. And what I'm saying, guys, is you've got to be totally onto it. You don't get duped into paying someone's child support payments on an unwanted pregnancy.